Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm being crazy here. There's something I forgot to do. Hello, everybody. Just wanted to let you know that I'm still wearing my mask. So this is the great ones I got. And got some pink ones for the wife so we don't mix them up. So just wanted to make sure that you don't forget to keep doing what you need to do to stay safe. Because we want to keep you around. And we'd hate to have you get sick. So trying to adjust this light here. So welcome, everybody. Good to see you. Sorry that we weren't able to do our last our last live because we were having some trouble with taking care of some coronavirus in the home. We needed to do some cleaning and get some testing done and all of that, and that caused us to miss that. So sorry about that. But we'll get going today. Okay, who we got here? Oh, okay. There is Warren from Caldwell, Idaho. Clovis, California. Robert, good to see you. Yeah, I just had the mask on for a minute as a little joke or a reminder to stay safe. And thanks. Can you hear me okay over there? I'm trying a mic. One of these kind of mics. I couldn't get the mic that was suggested to me by one of the attendees because I can't get them. They're like all sold out. And so I'm trying this one that I've had a little bit for a little while. My daughter got it and kind of left it behind when she took off to California with her husband. So I just want to make sure it's working okay. My room doesn't feel that dark, but it is kind of dark. I'm going to try turning off that light in the back, see if that does something. While we're waiting for people to come. Of course, I kind of like the halo effect that it gives me. All right, well, that shows up a whole lot better. Let's just give it a couple of more minutes while we're doing this. I want to tell you thanks for everything that everybody's been doing during this pandemic. We've actually had a significant increase in the number of people that are coming to the site. We are having a whole lot more persons in the tree being added. You know, we're running at about We've been averaging in the past between 6 and 7 million, and for the last 2-3 months now we're running at 10 million per month. So thank you very much for being diligent and working on family history. Hello from Claremont, Mickey, and there you go, Dixon, Tennessee, for Kendra. Thanks for joining us. All righty, let's give it one more minute, then we'll get going. I've been due diligent here. I've already scheduled the next Facebook Live. It will be in 2 weeks on Thursday again, and we'll have another one then. Hopefully nothing will pop up and give me trouble. So I got to get a haircut. I haven't made it to the barber shop in a month longer than I should have, but I got an appointment tomorrow, so we'll be doing well. Yeah, you feel free to go ahead and start asking questions. I'll start working on them here in just a minute. I'll answer one thing. I'm still getting some emails about the green temple thing, where there's one green temple icon for any of the ordinances like we've had, but now we have this 90-day ordinances, and someone emailed me today about it, and the answer is we are working on a separate there's something dust or something was inside of this that got in my nose. So we are working on a separate icon for the 90 days. We'll have it out soon in just a few weeks. And we're also changing the way you can reserve. So you can, if you come across a person in the tree that has both 90-day and 2-year things, you will see both, but you'll see them separated, saying this is a 90-dayer and this is a 2-year. And whichever one you select, you'll get all of those. So if you select the 90-day, then you'll get all the 90 days. If you select the 2-year, you get all the 2 years. If you select them both, then you get everything that's on that person. So we are working on that. Welcome, Diane, from Westmoreland in California. And Bill. Well, Eileen Duncan, you're not Bill, so you're just using some friend's address or something, and based in Wyoming. And from Western Australia. Boy, it's got to be, I don't know if it's morning or night. It's probably morning. I think they're about a day off. So welcome. And from Texas, from San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio is a nice place. I've been there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull up here the questions. There were several that submitted questions this week. So Jared said, when typing in notes and life stories, I can't figure out how to switch to italics or boldface. Can you help me, please? We don't offer that right now. It's just plain straight text that gets converted to HTML and displayed. We went through a process to try to do that and have the ability to intersperse pictures with text, and it's just unless you're using an existing tool like a blog or something like that, it's just too much work to try to do that on our own. So we're still investigating those options, but currently there isn't a way to do italics or boldface in any of the notes or in the life stories. Now, I did see that Paul had a question here from Ivans. In memories, when I open a picture, the names for each person in a group show up for about 2 seconds and then go away and don't come back. Why is this? It's because of where you put your mouse. So if you put your mouse over a person, then it will highlight that person, put a box around that person, show the name. If you kind of move the mouse around, you can get to the point where you're in a place where it's showing them all. And usually you don't want to see them all because you can't read them. If there's a whole bunch of people in the picture. I saw one today, somebody sent me, they were having some issues. And, it probably had 20 or 30 people in the picture, all of them with names. and it's just impossible to read the names. So the intent is you move your mouse over each face where a tag is applied, and you get to see that name. If you move it around and out and stuff, you can wiggle it around until you find a place where it'll do them all, but that's usually not very helpful. Family history fanatics, could you refresh us about what is a 90-day and a 2-year reservation, just to ensure we all know what you mean? Thank you for reminding me that it'd be good to explain that. So prior to the 90-day stuff, we only had 2-year reservations. And those 2-year reservations, people could take ordinances in that 2-year reservation, and they can share a portion of it to the temple. Oftentimes people, maybe there were people who didn't feel comfortable doing baptisms and confirmations, and so they would share the baptism and confirmation, or they don't really can't sit long enough or something to do an endowment, they'd share the endowment. And then they would keep the other ordinances, and they'd share those other ones to the temple, and they'd sit into the temple list. And the only way you could get to those temple listed ordinances was to show up at the temple, and it happened to be the time that, and then it just so happens that those got printed on a temple list, and they were handed out to you as something to do from the temple. Well, with the introduction of Ordinances Ready, we allowed people with Ordinances Ready to be able to reserve ordinances that had previously been shared with the temple. And so and we allowed a person 90 days to get those ordinances done, because we figured that was sufficient time for most any place on the planet. You know, if you're further away, then you should probably get 2-year ordinances. Or if you're close enough to get there within a quarter, 3 months, then you could reserve it and then go to the temple and do those names. And we wanted to make those more accessible, because what was happening is people would contact the original reserver and say, I want to do those ordinances, but I can't get to them because it's going to be on some temple list. So we decided we provide the ability to show ordinances that have been shared to the temple on the person page. That's what we've done just recently. So the 90-day green temple things you see on the person page are ordinances that were shared to the temple by the original reserver of that person's ordinances. So that's what a 90-dayer is. When you reserve those, you have 90 days to get them done, completed. If you don't complete them within the 90 days, we'll warn you about 21 days or so before they're going to expire through a message notification in the system. So keep an eye out at the top with that little bell. You get a notification, you'll see that, you got some reservations that might be expiring. And you get them done, everything's great. If you don't get them done in time, then we'll release them from out of your reservation list, and we'll put it back and make it available for somebody else. So that's what a 90-day reservation is, are ordinances shared to the temple by somebody else, and then you can grab them and take them if you're planning on going, but you need to get it done in 90 days. Okay, next one, Patricia. Any way to put a to-do list on each person page? That's something we wanted from the very beginning. The to-do list we have now has much more capability than we're showing. And it is on our list of something we have it on our list of something we want to do, but it's not far enough up the list yet to do it. My desire is to have one of those to-do lists on every page. We'll probably put it on the, where your source box is. And so it'll be on every page because it'll be in the header. And then you'll be able to click something on a person page to add a to-do list, add something to your to-do list from that person. So you click the person, add to do, be a add to do button or something like that. And then you could type in what you want. We'll automatically get the link to the person page. You can just click it and go to it, and that'll go in the to do. So that's something we want to do, but we haven't done yet. All righty, let's go back to, I'm going to go back to, where am I? I'm going to go back to the questions that people have submitted. Let's see. So this person, Jared, same person, Jared says, I work with books containing lists of descendants and ancestors of various of my ancestors. Okay, so he has a book that describes somebody had written, I assume, that has this information in those books. Those books are thick and hundreds of pages and containing thousands of names. I create a source in my source box for one of these books and then attach it to the people I find in the book. My problem is when I attach the source to the person, I can't find a way to list which page on the book I found the information. I can think of two ways to solve this. One is to put the source citation in a note with the page number, but then I cannot tag it to the pieces of vital information. The other is to make a separate source in my source box for every page of the book. This is a royal pain. Is there a simple way to cite these things so people following me don't have to know through the whole book just to see what I saw? Well, let me tell you a way that I think you can do this. So what I would recommend for this particular case, this is a person who has a book, doesn't want to have to edit the source a bunch of times. So this is what I would do. I would create a source in your source box and put in all the juicy details about that book. You know, the name of the book, who's the author, how many pages it has, maybe the copyright, or the date it was published, maybe the ISBN number, things like that, all the details in that source. Leave that source in your source box. Then what I would do is, so this is the idea that you have in other tools like Roots Magic and Ancestral Quest. They do these things called master sources, and then when you attach it, you make a more detailed source. So you can do this in the following way. Create this master source in your source box. When you want to attach it, remember this master source doesn't have a page number in it. So then you go to your source box, you go to that master source, you look at the source and you click copy. And what it'll do is it'll make a duplicate source, and then you just modify that source. You delete it'll put a new title that says copy, a copy dash, and then the thing. Delete the copy dash, go down to where your citation is, and just add page 2, and then attach it to all the people. You can attach that same source to all those people, or if you choose, you can create a new one for each person and attach it. And then you can remove that source from your source box, not the master one, but the page 2, page 3, page 4 as you get done with that. That's I think the easiest way to do that and not have to retype anything. Just click copy, remove the copy from the title, add the page number, attach it, and then just use it for everybody on that page. And then remove it, say remove this from my source box, and then go make the next one for page 2 or page 3 or whatever page you're on. Okay, hope that makes sense. If others have suggestions, feel free to add to the live chat of other ways you've done it. But that's the intent of the copy, was to be able to do that. So there you go. Let's see, back on the list here. Richard Sullivan. If you add living to my tree, what happens if you die before them? Okay, so because of privacy laws, GDPR and all that sort of stuff, we cannot expose the living in the tree. So as you know, when you enter living, it goes into your private area, your parts of the tree that is only seen by you. So if you die before the other living that are in your private space, then what will happen is, if you're a member of the church, we know when you die because your clerk marks you deceased someday. Sometimes they mark them too early, and sometimes they mark them way late. But when you get marked deceased in your membership record, we get notified, and then we'll take your home person and we're going to mark it deceased and move you into the public space. Everybody else who's living is still in that private area. And currently, the proposal that we are working on is we will have a part of the system that looks at the people inside of the private area. And when they become deceased, probably because they're 110 years old, we'll make them deceased as well into the tree. Now, we've talked before about our concept of shared family groups. When that happens, then you can take these other living people and put copies of them into the shared family area. And then when if you were to become deceased, then other family members who have access to that area can go in and mark the other people deceased as they move on. So that's the idea there. Oh yeah, Patricia loves the reason statement options in the merge. You are welcome. It was one of these great ideas from one of our UX designers to have some sort of preset ones because people were just skipping it. But there's a lot of good information like the PIDs and all that sort of stuff that is very important to put in a merge. So I think it was a great idea. And now I'm getting suggestions from people to put it in lots of other places, right? Put it in when I attach, put it in when I do this or that. And I think it's a good idea. We'll probably start spreading those sort of standard preset things that are most interesting and valuable for those particular areas. All right, I'm going to go back to the submitted ones. Here's the next one. This is from Sharon. It says, I just spent a half hour answering a research question for a lady in my messages. When I hit send, the entire message disappeared because the page refreshed instead of sending the message. I have noticed that happening in the person pages also. When you add new information after leaving the page inactive for a while, so frustrating. This is a fairly recent problem. Why is this happening? And can you please fix it? Okay, this is the problem. When you're working in a web environment, we monitor if you're still doing things. If you're not doing anything over a period of time, it's about an hour. If you don't do anything for an hour, you go away to eat dinner, or you get distracted by a phone call, or you start working on something else on your papers and looking through the book, and an hour goes by without you doing anything, we will terminate the session. We're going to assume that you've walked away from your computer and no longer using it, so we'll terminate the session. What I recommend is that if you have tendencies to get caught up and you're not working on something and typing it to completion right away, that I recommend you use a word processor or Notepad or Pages or something on your computer and type your thing inside of there. When you got it exactly like you want it, then copy that and paste it in the family tree and then save it. That way, if the system times out on you, you don't lose any of your work you've done. So anytime you're doing more than just, a paragraph or so, I recommend opening just a little. All it is a Notepad would work, or any sort of basic word processing thing that you could type stuff in and then copy and paste it in. That's the best way to make sure that you don't lose anything. And if you end up, saying I need a couple days to write that thing, well, that's great. Just save the file on your computer, come back tomorrow, keep working on it. When you got it right where you want it, then you go copy and paste it in the family tree. Okay, here's Diane Westmoreland says, question about 110-year rule. A patron called me about a sister who died 110 years ago as of the 2nd of August, but it is still saying, I assume is what you're saying, it needs permission. When will that name be released? All right, I got a confession for you. We have a problem with 110-year right now. Most of the problem is around time zones and the difficulty of knowing where a particular user is, or where they, what country they say they're in, and choosing a time zone. And we've had problems where we released it too early And now we're having problems where we're releasing it way too late. So the team is looking at it. They've been looking at it for a few weeks. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to turn this on, but I know that they've been working on it. And we're going to pick a specific time in the UTC, Universal Time, which means Geneva kind of time. And you will have to, we're going to try to figure out a way to, I think we should present that on the screen, that in the ordinance area, that this would be available on this date at this time in UTC time. And then you could take that date and time, plug it into your browser and say, what is my local time for this? And it'll tell you, 4:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, at that point in time, that person is going to cross over the threshold and you'll be able to reserve them without the 110-year rule getting in your way. Hasn't happened yet. We've been working on it for a little while. It's not as easy as you think it is because you feel like, wow, that would be easy, but it's really not. And when we get that done, we'll let you know. And I'll answer the next one, then I'll go back to the other list. How does the COVID delays affect the 90-day reservation? Very good question. I'll even do some whiteboarding here. How about that? Let's see how that works with this darker world. Okay, so let me write it up here. Let's say you have a 90-day reservation and you have 45 days left. And you have a 2-year reservation and you have 1.5 years left. Okay, here's the two examples. 90-day, I'm going to go over here. You have 90-day reservation and you have 45 days left when the COVID started, and we decided to, that's LEFT, for those who don't have their Urim and Thummim and special glasses to help you read. And then maybe you had a 2-year that had 1.5 days left, okay? To me, this looks like backwards. So anyway, does that look backwards to you, by the way? Looks backwards to me, but I don't look backwards. So anyway, what happened is when we started, that's that little light. So when we started, what we did is we said, we will extend this 45 days by 1 day, and this 1.5 year, 1 day every day. So every day we'll extend this. So one day in a day, this will be 46. This will be 1 point, 1 point whatever. It'll be so many days. We'll continue to extend it until it's time for us to stop extending, because sufficient number of temples have opened that we feel it's reasonable to have them start expiring again. When they start expiring, we will make sure that any reservation, whether it's 90 days or 2 years, let's say you had a reservation down here 2 years, but you only had 30 days left. It doesn't matter whether it's a 90 or a 2-year reservation. We're going to make sure that a minimum you have 90 days when we start expiring again. So nobody will have less than 90 days to get it done. And if you have more than 90 days, like this one right here is 1.5 years, then you'll have 1.5 years when we're out of the COVID and we're all doing proxy ordinances. Okay, that makes sense? So every ordinance will have at least 90 days or greater if you had more than 90 days as your reservation. So you'll have what you had before if you had more than 90. Otherwise, you have at least 90. So that's what's going to happen. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go back over here. This is from Dee Dee. Could you explain how to add a child born out of wedlock to family search? I've been giving conflicting advice over the years. Should they have a mother and a father who are together but have no marriage events, or a separate mother and a separate father, each listed alone but having the same child? Yeah, this is I'm not happy with the solution we have right now. But as you may be aware, we added several new relationship conclusions or events that you could put into a marriage. So, for instance, you could go to a person, and if they had no children, you can go to other information and say had no children, choose no children. And if somebody tries to give them a child, we'll get a data problem. Same thing with no spouse, no couple. They can say no couple relationship, which means they never married anybody. So if somebody tries to put in a spouse, it'll also do a data problem. We've done the same thing in the couples. So you go to a couple relationship, and we have the facts of no children, and we've also added the fact in the relationship of lived together. Okay. I'm not quite satisfied with this solution because we have the situations. So this is the intent. The intent for adding the no children means don't try to add children to this couple as parents, because you have evidence. You need to give a reason statement and maybe your source as to why evidence that they never had any children, like a journal entry or something that says we never had kids. And then, but for living together, the intent was that is if that couple never married, but they lived together as husband and wife for a period of time, you use your judgment on what that means. That does not mean a one-night stand in a hotel, okay? I can tell you what that doesn't mean. But you need to use your judgment to understand, well, were they together for, 3 years, or this census they were together, and this census they were together, and then after that they weren't. So you need to sort of investigate that a little bit. And if they live together but not married, but they show up in the census but not married, then you know to put living together, and you treat that just like as if they were married as far as sealings go. If it's a one-night stand, I think the recommendation is you put the kid in with a father, and you put the kid in again with a mother. And that's simply because you don't want them being sealed. That's the intent with the temple, is to not seal them to those parents because they didn't live together. They weren't a family. And so then you would just seal that child to grandparents of the person who has the child. So if the wife has the child, then you would seal them to probably her parents. If it's a man that has a child, you'd probably seal them to his parents, sort of thing. So that's the intent. I don't really like it. We didn't feel comfortable having a never married. We talked about a never married on there, and it kind of feels weird to say, here's a couple that were together, but they never lived together and they never were married. And so were they really a couple? They were just an event is all they were. And so I don't think we've got it right. If you want to send me suggestions on how you think this would be a good way to do things, love to hear from you. My email is ron, R-O-N, at familysearch.org, familysearch.org. So feel free to send me an email with suggestions on how you think it would be best to make it understandable and how a person could represent that, so that we don't mistakenly in the future seal that child to those parents. Now, I know they were biological parents, but the expectation for sealings is that they were a family for some time. All right, I'm going to come back over here. Did the live just freeze? I didn't know it. I didn't notice it freezing, but did anybody else notice it freezing? I hope it's doing okay right now. Yeah. So, Jew, we started out by that, waiting for the clock plus 2 days, and what's happening is people are still confused because they want it to be, the next day, or the next hour, or at midnight when the day turns, but it's in their area, and we just have not got it right. So the team's working on it. They're going to come back and we're going to talk about it when they find a solution. I think the important thing is for us to be that next day. I think is the right answer. Sometime in that day. So. Okay, let me go back here and go to the next one. This is from Lynette. She said, my brother passed away and I have scanned all of our childhood photos and put them on Family Search. Some of his daughters were not happy that I put some of the pictures of his high school prom and dances on there, so they removed them. Do they, as his children or wife, have more of a right to say what photos of him will be on there over me as a sibling? I thought Family Search was for anyone to share photos and memories. It is disappointing to go and do all the work and then just have someone arbitrarily remove them. Yeah, it's I can understand that. I can understand that you spent that energy and effort to put that stuff up there. I'm not sure why they would have a problem with that. I guess they didn't ever want to see him in pictures with anybody other than their mother, I would guess. But in general, for Family Search, since we're not arbitrators of family arguments or family disputes. So traditionally what we do is if somebody contacts us and tells us this particular picture is offensive to the family, then we'll remove it. And I hope at least they kept some pictures of his high school. I would love to have some high school pictures of my dad, which I don't have. So I have some when he was college or so, but he only went like one semester to college. So, alrighty. Family history fanatics. What has been easy on Family Search programming? I don't know. Probably the easiest thing we did recently was adding the Find My Family History Center, even though that was some effort. So when you're dealing with the scale we're dealing with and the complexity of interrelationships and stuff, Family Search can be pretty complicated. And because of the scale, often our development cycles, our development is pretty complex because we have to handle millions and millions and millions of visitors and users and get them all working seamlessly and smoothly. So it's I think once you do some of that in Family Search, then most of the engineers get accustomed to having to deal with those kind of scaling to do that. Large databases, giant databases across multiple areas in the world and things like that. So let's see. Here does this go? Carl, my wife hit the issue, whatever that is. She found a person in the tree with two sets of parents, a biological and adoptive. Only one set of parents appeared in ordinances. Can you seal them to both sets of parents? I want to talk a little bit about that. You're talking specifically, Carl, about a sealing to parents. What I want you to understand is that sealing to, I'll tell you how I understand what's the purpose of a sealing to parent ordinance. A sealing to parent is an ordinance that grants the child the ability to be sealed to parents for eternity. And think about this. There's people who had maybe abusive parents or parents they didn't really want to be with. And if we think logically and we think about the next life and what the purpose of the kingdoms of happiness are, we're not going to be. Some people believe that if you're sealed to a certain set of parents, you're stuck with them forever. But if those parents aren't worthy to be in the same place you are, then that's okay. That sealing is still effective for you to have a family there. And so we primarily only need one sealing to parent in order to have that ordinance considered completed. If you feel compelled to seal them to another set of parents, you can do that by selecting the other set of parents as you preferred view, refreshing the page, and then you'll see Green Temple for sealing to those set of parents. So you can do that. I'm just telling you that you don't really have to, but you do what you feel is right in those cases that you need to be. Because there are cases where people feel very strongly about being sealed to a certain set of parents. Maybe they're the adopted parents that they loved and their biologicals were horrible or something. And they want to, they need to feel good about who they're sealed with, and you need to feel good about that too. So that's how you would do that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the other questions. This is from Linda. She says, is there a way to hide changes I've made in notifications under changes to people you follow? I cannot see a place to hide changes I've made. Yeah, when we built the new watch list, the team neglected to put that in there. They're working on it now because we got the message that people want to be able to hide. Sometimes they want to hide the changes they've made. And so that will be coming soon. I think it's scheduled for sometime this month or early next month. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming. Dana said, my question 2 weeks ago concerned the difference between ancestor and relative. It was not questions view relationships, which I use all the time. I was questioning the fact that Family Search sends messages, we have found your ancestor, when instead what was found was a great aunt or uncle with a different relationship. Ancestors are direct, but relatives are collateral. All of our ancestors are relatives. However, not all of our relatives are ancestors. Could the notices we get are sent be changed to reflect the correct relationship? We usually refer to ancestors as someone that you're directly or indirectly related to. I get when you talk about direct ancestors that those are your direct line, but it may be pretty messy for each individual person we send that. It's a campaign. It's a message from the system to sort of help you explore more of the people you're related to. The only thing we could do is just say, here's your relative. I guess I could ask them to only put this is about your relative, and your relative could be your dad, for instance, who's deceased. And would you feel comfortable with that? I mean, would you prefer to have everything say, come learn more about your relative, and nothing says ancestor? I think it's too difficult for us to send a customized event to each individual based on some particular person that we want to have you explore. So I think that's too difficult to do, and it's most people don't concern themselves with whether it's called ancestor or relative. But I'll put a note here in my book here. Should we change to relative instead of ancestor on emailed events? Question mark. So I'll go to that team, mention that you brought this up, and see how they feel about that. I don't think some people mention it. It hasn't been very many people, but we'll go look at it. This is from Christina. My non-member father-in-law passed away last week. Sorry for your loss there. As we started merging all the living PIDs, now marked deceased, I was wondering how attached sources work with living PIDs as each PID is marked deceased. Since we can now attach sources to living PIDs, I assume several PIDs will have each source attached. Is the first PID marked as the deceased the one that retains the source attachments? I wasn't paying close enough attention as I performed the task, and I didn't have any details on my PID for him. Now his census and military records are showing to be attached. Maybe they weren't attached to him on mine or my husband's living PID. Just don't know, and I'm curious how this works. So what is happening there is it's just a basic merge. So two people have that person in their living area. One marks them deceased. Another person marks it deceased. Somebody's going to merge those two together. Some of them just mark them deceased and leave them, and so you find them as a possible duplicate. The rule of thumb from merge, for the new merge that we've released about a month and a half ago, is we will automatically transfer over all the sources that were on the person who's going to be archived away. So we'll take all the sources on the one that's going to go away, and we're going to put them on the survivor. So there is a possibility. I don't think, I'm not sure about this one on the new merge. I don't think we checked to make sure that we don't have the source in there twice. I'm going to make a note of that because we could do that at the merge time. Check on merge to not attach same source twice, question mark. So I'll go check that out. But they may all be on there. So you might want to go look at your father and sort it by the date and go through and see if you see duplicates, and then delete one of the duplicates. And then it'll be all clean. Here's the next one. Let's see. It's done by now. Does not force the person to the relationship. Yeah, that's right. You got to remember that having a ceiling to somebody, no one's forced to live with that person. I mean, remember, the next life we're supposed to be happy and overjoyed and delighted and just happy as we can be. So no one's going to be stuck with something that won't have them be happy. Oh, okay. Yeah, they've already released the hide your own. Okay, good. Thank you, Amy, for clarifying. I couldn't remember when it went out. Okay, so Jordy, thanks. You believe relative is probably a better word. It just means any particular person we're related to. So I'll be sure and pass it on to them. Let's see, M. Herdsman said, is there a way to show two marriage dates for one couple? Absolutely. You just go into the couple relationship and you say add a marriage. You can't add a second marriage that has the exact same date, because if it does, you should be just editing the one that's already there. So you can go in and add a second date. You may want to try to document, because unless they got married more than once, it seems like they should only have one, unless they got divorced and then remarried. I had an uncle and an aunt who were married and then got divorced and then got remarried and then got divorced again. So they're going to have two marriages and two divorces on theirs when they pass on. So, okay. Going back to the other questions. On the temple reservation page, the reservation policy link doesn't appear to be working. Really? Let me go check it out. I'm going to go check that out real quick. There's my family tree. I'm going to go to temple, my reservations. Reservation. Oh, yeah. I remember the reservation policy was broken. Yeah, I sent that off to my team a couple days ago. So, yeah, we know about that one. Thank you very much. Carolyn says, I have a few sources like this and wonder where they came from. Migrated from user-supplied source citation Family search source 32465163118. Okay, so back in New Family Search days, you may not be aware of New Family Search. New Family Search was the first tree we created, and it was released in June of 2007. I remember that because it released on the Friday. I started work on this particular week, and that Friday, a New Family Search was released. It was a different website. And since then, and in that website, people started entering sources, but they weren't like the sources of today. They didn't have images. They didn't have index. They had index data, but they had to type it in this complex form and stuff. And so people created sources, and they could automatically use the same source for multiple pieces of data they put in. And then when we converted the system to be more open, then we brought those sources over. But since they were so much different than what the sources we have of today, that they kind of showed up in notes sometimes, or they found it come up in the source section, but it's all just text. And so I suspect this is one of those. You'd have to, you drill in it, take a look at it. If it's a value, I'd keep it. If there's nothing really in there that's actionable that you can figure out is a real source that you can find and understand, then I think you could detach that source if you wanted, because it's just so different now. This one's from George. George says, how can I back up my family lines from Family Search Family Tree, including sources, memories, and reason statements in one simple operation? Or on what timescale might Family Search provide needed API so third-party products could download family tree lines from Family Search Family Tree, even if limited in number of generations, say 4 or 10 or whatever? Yes, some of this exists for members with Ancestry.com. Okay. There are several partners who have the ability to read your line from Family Search and bring it to their product. Several of those. One is like, let me just name a few. I don't know them all. I know there's more always coming, but it's like Roots Magic, Ancestral Quest, Legacy. I can't remember the Mac one. There's a Family Tree Maker, I think, can actually download stuff. There's some Mac ones too. Trying to Magic Key, I think, is the name of the one in the Mac. I don't have a Mac, so that's why I don't know their name. Their software really great for long-term memory. But you can go to partners. You can go to the bottom of Family Search, click Sitemap, look for partners, or let me see what it says. Help me out here. My brain is not functioning on this. So you go to Family Search. Let me go to Tree. Maybe we'll find it here. Go down to the page. Oh, it's on the bottom of the page, and it's called Solutions Gallery. You click on Solutions Gallery at the bottom of the page in the footnote, and in there, it has several partners that are showing, and you can click, look at them all. You can see what capability they have. Family Tree Management is the section that has these software that you can install on your computer that can then communicate with Family Tree in both directions. You know, that has where some of those, like in there right now is like Ancestor Quest for PC and Mac, Branches, Family Tree Maker, Legacy Family Tree, Mac Family Tree, that's the one, Magic Census Deluxe, Magic Tree, Mobile Family Tree, My Heritage Family Tree Builder, Roots Magic. Several of these have free versions that will allow you to synchronize between your product of choice and Family Tree, both directions. So what I recommend is, since they have free versions, most of them allow them to do that, I go try a few of them. I'd go download 2 or 3 different kinds and try it for a little while. And if you like it, then you're off and running. They have pay for versions that have extra features, and then just try and find the one you like, and then go that way. And that one, with all of these, you could just say you install it and you say, I want to download 10 generations or something, and it'll bring all that data down, including all the sources, pictures, all that kind of stuff. Pictures, bring down pictures and stuff. And now you have a saved copy of your lines from Family Search. Okay. I think there was one more over there I'm going to go answer. And then I'm going to come back and look at what's on we'll go back to the chat, live chat, and answer those. This is Warren, says, with one of the latest system changes, when adding a new person to the tree for family member identified out of the U.S. Census source, the system is not capitalizing all the letters in the default of the last name. I thought that it was documented standards that we not use all capitals in the name. Can you give us a guidance on this question, please? Yeah. Capitalization of last name was a standard that was taught back in the 1980s. And traditionally, that was to help systems understand where the last name is, because the systems were fairly crude as far as software goes. We ask in Family Tree not to capitalize the last name. There's no need to do that. And so just put it in upper lower case, just like you would normally. And it's no longer necessary, because we know which names are first names and which names are last names because of where you put it. So we recommend that you do not put all capitals in Family Tree for last names. Okay. All righty, let's go over here to the chat. How are we doing here? Oh, we're down to just 5 minutes. It's just been great. We've had lots of questions, enough to keep us busy the whole time. Let's see if we can answer some more. Make sure everybody gets their question answers before we disappear as pumpkins. I'm just reading through here about ceilings, never married. I see comments there. Stuart, my one aunt was married twice. She was sealed to the second husband, but does not want to be sealed to the first. How can we stop someone else from having her sealed to the first husband? They're deceased. You can't. There's no reason to stop it. It doesn't hurt anything. She's going to choose. And let me just tell you this. This is why I feel comfortable talking about this like this, is because I went, one of my first, at the church, if you're part of the church workforce, they have an annual devotional. And in the annual devotional, we often have a member of the 12 come and talk to us. And in one particular case, and this is all I'm going to speak about it, because we're not supposed to repeat much of what gets talked there, but this is relevant. And it also affected me too, and my spouse. I'll tell you why. So I think it was Elder Scott that was talking, and at the very beginning of his Q&A, so they kind of present some stuff, give us a talk, and then they usually have time. They do a Q&A. And before the Q&A started, he said, I'm going to talk to the brethren. Well, when they're going to talk to brethren, we're going to be in trouble, right? That's usually what's going on. And that's a good thing, because us guys, we kind of get caught up in worldly things and forget some of the other stuff. But he said, brethren, you need to treat your spouse like the queen she is, because when the time comes for her to have her kingdom with her spouse, the Lord is going to ask her, do you want him? I mean, you want him forever? And, she could say no, or yeah. And then that's what he said. So he says, you need to treat him like you should, so that, you could be together. So what that told me, so I came home, told the missus, hey, this is what happened. And blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, I hope they ask the guy whether he wants the gal. And she says, wow, probably doesn't need to. But anyway, so much for that. It was kind of funny, and we tease each other now and again about it. But the point is, no one's stuck with anybody, and the person you're going to be with will be your choice. It will be a common choice for who you want to be with for the eternity, and because you're going to be happy and you want to be happy. So if she gets sealed with the other person, it doesn't hurt anything. We're not going to provide a way for that to be blocked. Probably most people won't even bother looking at that because that other sealing to a spouse is going to be showing on that page. So there won't be any ordinances for them to detect and then click to go do per se. So we currently don't have that. We're not expecting to do that, to be able to block that. If you want to discuss more about it, please send me an email. Remember Ron at FamilySearch.org, and we can have a deeper conversation if you would like. Let's see. I'm just reading through the rest of the questions. Here's Mike M. Relative is better. So Warren, let's see, explain the needs of happen to see and or reserve ordinances of person in sensitive areas. Okay, so Lynn's talking about, could you explain what needs to happen to see and or reserve ordinances for a person in sensitive areas like the Middle East? So today, currently, for those in the Middle East, they're considered countries we must be careful with, so that anybody who's performing ordinances in the temple from that area do not get exposed and potentially have concerns about interactions because somebody knows that they're doing Middle East work. You're only supposed to do relatives, so you would have to have family relatives in your line that are from those areas. And right now, you have to contact support, Tier 3, so you need to ask that request to go up to Tier 3. In the future, we're actually going to provide the ability for you to reserve ordinances within your private area for these people or these relatives of yours, and then you'll be able to put it on your reservation list, print a card, and then see those ordinances when they're completed. Now, Warren, what are you talking about there? You said the system is doing it, not the person. So you're saying the system is making the last name capital? Is that what you're saying, Warren? So answer me back there. SourceLink is creating an error with the surname in all caps, and it has already been reported as a bug. Okay. Thanks, Amy. I was unaware of that. 4 weeks ago, they still haven't fixed that. So let me make a note here. All caps in names in SourceLink. Must have had a new engineer who thought that was standard format or something. Yeah, you're asking if I look at the Get Satisfaction forum. With this, I have traditionally looked at every single entry in the Get Satisfaction. Of course, I struggle sometime with time to look at it. I think right now I have, let me look what I have. In the Get Satisfaction post, I'm 1,610 posts behind. But there are 3 or 4 other people that are looking through those. And what we've been doing lately is if they find one that looks serious, they'll send me an email with that particular post in it and tell me what they're concerned about. And then those ones I work on right away. And then when I have some time, which since the COVID thing, I haven't had very much because I'm in meetings every hour of the day. until into the night. And so I haven't been able to keep up with it. But others are looking out for me, 3 or 4 that I work with regularly, and they're letting me know when there's something that comes up that needs some attention. Okay, let me look here. Yeah, logged in. When you say stay logged in each morning, I don't know. That's been a problem. That team knows that that's not working just perfectly. Okay, Sherry, when people have questions on a relative in my husband's tree, they send a message and it comes to me and not him. Our emails are correct, but I get the questions why. Depends on if you made the change in your husband's line. Remember, what they're doing is they're looking and seeing your contact name next to the contribution you made, like the birth or the death or something. And if they want to have a question, they'll click on your name and send you a message. So it has nothing to do with the line. It has to do with who contributed that piece of data on that person, wherever that person is. So if your name is there, if your contact name is there, then they click it, they're going to send it to you. What are the rules regarding doing temple work for friends? You traditionally, you have to be related to that person. You can contact support, and there's a way for you to send a form in that's signed by relatives of that friend who give you permission to do that person's ordinances. So you can contact support and say you want to do a friend, you want to get the form that you need to fill that out, and then you have to make it available to get approved for that permission. Okay, so all caps I've got on there. Okay, thank you everybody. We've gone over just a hair, but I don't have any problem with that because I missed the last time. So I want to thank you for all you do. I want to thank you for your help in making Family Search great and doing what you're doing. I encourage you to help others understand how Family Tree works and how best to work in Family Tree with others. We're trying to. I can't remember if we got it shipped. Let me go look and see if we have a overview page. I think we have our overview page coming up now. Let me see. I have to go to the top here. And come on. Family Search Tree. There's a menu item called Overview. Oh, it's not there. Overview. It's there. And that we're going to try to get that in people's faces more often. And it talks a little bit about what Family Tree is, how it's used to share information with each other. Because we find that most people, when they come in, they think it's like all the other online trees where they have a private tree. And that's not the case. And so we have to learn to work together and do things together. My recommendation is if you have people changing things in your lines, that they're relatives. So go get a hold of them and try to work with them and teach them about how to do good genealogy. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Please continue to submit those questions. So we have lots of questions for 2 weeks from today. And thank you very much. And you all have a great evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.